electrons of the Earth that have the ability to neutralize the free radical damage that's created by so much of these electrical fields that we surround ourselves with. And many people, Kim, have talked about the benefits of earthing. They have seen improvement in their inflammation-related problems. There's been definitely an increase in better sleep, faster sleep, more sound sleep, increased energy, and lowered stress, where they've done before and after cortisol level studies. So there's something to be said about being connected to the earth and the calming effect that you see, the circulatory effects that are seen, and the normalization of the body's biological rhythm. So yeah, I'm a big believer in earthing. I sleep on sheets that are grounded directly to the earth outside, and they're made from these conductive materials, and I assume that's what you're talking about when you talk about being grounded.
Right. I'm actually using the mat. So when I'm at my desk, I have my feet on the mat.
Well, see, I've got my feet on the mat when I'm at the desk.
Yes.
When I'm there right now with both feet barefoot on my little universal mat, which is grounded directly into the electrical ground, in the wall. And I also do this at night as well with grounding sheets, and I also sleep in an RF tent, would you believe? I have a special tent that I sleep in. It is almost like a little canopy that's made from a specially conductive mesh material that is able to protect the system against radio frequencies that are coming to me in the courtesy of my own bedroom and in the privacy of my own bedroom, because we have a huge cell phone tower that's not too far away from me, right across the river. And as we know, water is a wonderful antenna and is a better transmitter than any medium that we know of, so it can magnify those impacts. Yeah, so it's all over, and you've got to do whatever it takes. That's why making your sleeping area into a healing haven, to me, is just common sense, because that's something that you can hopefully control. And even if you just get a mat that you put your feet on at night, you can put that right on your bed. I think that's a good beginning for people. You'll see a difference in terms of healing, chronic aches and pains. You'll be dreaming like crazy, by the way, and you may have experienced that already. But I don't think there's a night that goes by when you don't work out all these deeply psychological issues in your mind, because you are now being grounded to healing energy. It is amazing what happens with people, and there's some double-blind, placebo-controlled studies to really prove it. So yes, earthing, the most important health discovery ever, and I think it's right up there with penicillin in terms of the importance of this discovery.
I'm interviewing them in a couple of weeks, and they wanted me to use their products before I actually did a piece with them, which is fine. I'm very happy to do it, and I'm very excited about it. Do you take melatonin?
I find, interestingly enough, I take a little melatonin because we know how important melatonin is in terms of the ability to protect the system and to maintain circadian rhythm and to help you fall asleep at night. I have found that since I have been grounding using the special grounded sheets that I write about in Zapped, I don't have to take as much melatonin. So it's very interesting. There's this normalization, and again, I'm going back to the grounding, which, by the way, the Tour de France team used.
Yes, indeed.
And there's some A-list athletes that also sleep in the grounding pads. They've got grounding bags, grounding sheets, the universal mats. So this is something that all of Hollywood has been on for several years at this point. But what I can tell you is that you don't need as many vitamins and minerals when you're doing the grounding. And there is this calmness that really impacts the system because of the normalization, particularly of cortisol and melatonin. So it isn't just cortisol that becomes balanced, but it's also melatonin. You sleep better, you sleep more soundly, and no, I don't take as much. But I still use about, I'm going to say it's anywhere from 1 to 3 milligrams per evening. I was taking 4 times as much before the grounding.
Are you taking time-released?
I'm taking a special melatonin that I actually created after doing the research with the book.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm doing a time-release melatonin that also has a number of minerals that it also releases when it releases the melatonin. There is zinc, there is manganese and selenium, because I find that those particular minerals act in a way as very potent antioxidants, particularly to I would say to help the damaging effects that occur with the cell membrane.
That's great. That's wonderful. I didn't even know that.
Most people are very deficient in manganese. It's one of those underrated minerals, very important for SOD for a certain enzyme that your body should be producing on its own, and then of course the selenium, major anti-cancer and antioxidant in its own right. So yes, I've been able to decrease quite a lot of my intake thanks to this wonderful technology, and I think that's what we have to depend upon. It's technology to really, I would say, technology to offset the impact of other technology.
It's all preventative. I loved how many people you cited when you talked about Dave Stetzer, the 98% solution and the dimmer switches. I want you to share a little bit about him, what your findings are. This is a really practical way for people to help themselves, and I would just really appreciate if you would share something about these other remedies as well.
Well, I think you're talking about the dirty electricity.
Yes.
Yeah, the dirty electricity, which is almost, it's polluted electricity where so many of these higher frequencies can get onto your regular electrical wiring. And it's something that I really stumbled across, to be quite honest with you, when I read about a case of a gal in Wisconsin that was living on an old dairy farm and found that she got chronic fatigue, a very young, very vital woman, in her late 20s, and then couldn't walk up the stairs after living in this home. And it was found that her ground outside, that the earth outside was being contaminated with ground current, and she needed to install very special filters to kind of block this electrical current that was coming back into the house, and that's where this whole dirty electricity concept really began to take root in my own mind. And so what she found was that by installing and measuring, she first used a meter. It's a microsurge meter that you can get online. We certainly have them available at ruzapped.com. And if you go through your house, you will simply plug in this little meter, and the meter registers these microsurges of power. And if, in fact, the meter is anywhere more than 50 in terms of your electrical environment, then you would need to start adding filters to bring down the readings, which are called GS. It's actually named after the developers, the Graham Stetzer meters. And my home had something like 200, 300, 500 GS throughout the home, so it took 40 meters, or filters, I should say, to bring those readings down to less than 25.
That's totally shocking.
Yeah,
to me.
Well, I live in Idaho. I mean, it's not, I'm not in a big city, and I'm not in an apartment building where there are all sorts of wireless routers. They're not antennas. I mean, I'm just here on the river, in a beautiful area, and next door to me is a huge church camp. So where all this was coming from, I have no idea, other than to tell you that when we built this house, I didn't know anything about electromagnetic energy fields, Kim Greenhouse. I mean, what did I know? I knew from nothing. So we have dimmer switches. We've got all sorts of electrical things. You can just push some sort of switch here in the house and you can hear music. I mean, all that takes electricity, and it all takes special wiring. So we had quite a bit of problem here in the house in terms of this dirty electricity. And when we installed the meter, the filters, I should say, they're filters, and they're just these little filters. I mean, you just plug them into the wall. Anybody can do it very easily. I found an immediate difference in the way in which the house felt, and so much so that when an electrician came in to fix, one of our exercise bikes, for whatever reason, he did his own detection of our electrical fields and said, this is the cleanest house I've ever been in 20 years. And he didn't know that I had gone through the whole house, and I'd put all these filters throughout the house in every single room of the house. There's so many levels of this. So you've got the electrical fields from all your electrical appliances, and then you've got the radio frequency coming from anything wireless, any communication device, and then, of course, this latest but greatest issue, which is the dirty electricity. And they have found in many schools where kids come down with problems, whether it's terrible headaches or their asthma gets worse, when they start implementing the use of the meters and then the filters, the asthma decreases, the tardiness decreases, ADD decreases, as well as problems with mold, because mold cannot proliferate in an EMF-rich environment. So it's amazing what's going